Could the Habs potentially sneak into a playoff spot? And we have a special Christmas surprise for you. This is Hockey Inside Out. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hockey Inside Out. It's actually our last episode before the new year. I'll let you know when you can catch us again. Joining me on the panel this week, we have Stu Cowan from the Montreal Gazette, Rick Green, former NHLer, Stanley Cup champ, and former assistant coach with the Montreal Canadiens, and your Christmas present, Chris Nilan. He's back joining us on the panel this week. He's, of course, the host of Raw Knuckle Podcast. You can check that out if you miss hearing Chris here on the show. Chris, welcome back to Hockey Inside Out.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Good to see all of you. Jess, the last time I was with you, you weren't a mother. You were still single, actually. Greenie, last time I was with you, we were kind of dancing at a concert. And Stu, I haven't seen you since, the last show I did, and Greenie took over. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you, Knuckles. I love that background there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I never had anything. Any of my memorabilia it was all in my mom's house in Boston. And when my dad passed, Jamie and I went up into the attic and was snooping around. And my mother had boxes of stuff, like just boxes. And Jamie was going through it all. I said, "Why don't you put this up?" And I was starting the podcast. We had this room here. It was a bedroom. We turned it into an office. And it's funny, that jersey behind me was in a green, hefty alligator trash bag. And it was at the bottom of it. I was going through it, and I couldn't believe it. I pulled it out. It's my rookie jersey.
Wow.
Like, I could not believe it. Wow. I put it on now, and it's not because I'm fat. But it's like, it feels tight on me. It's weird. I put it on. It's like, I can't believe I wore that jersey playing hockey, but I didn't wear much under it. So anyway, yeah, pretty cool.
I love that number 30 that your dad told you to keep, right, and make it your own.
Yeah. I always thought he did that because he bought a jersey with 30 on it, and he didn't want to buy another one in case I changed my number. But he said, keep that number and make something of it. And listen, I had it everywhere I went. I had it with Team USA. I had it with the Bruins, and I had it with the Rangers. So, yeah, it's kind of cool, number 30. I love it.
You changed it from being a goalie number to a player number.
Right? Yeah, now, pretty soon there won't be any more numbers below 30.
Well, Chris, I'm looking forward to getting your insight on this week's panel. So let's get right into it. After 31 games, the Canadiens are surprisingly over 500, despite some injuries to some key players on the Montreal Canadiens. They are hovering around a playoff spot. So, can Habs fans start to think in the springtime that the season won't be over and they can cheer on their team? And if you do think that they could make the playoffs, is this a good thing for this rebuilding Montreal Canadiens team? Chris, why don't you start us off?
Well, listen, I had this team out of the playoffs this year, but I also said I believe they'd be kind of nipping at a spot at the end, the wild card spot. And I just, I think it may be 3, 4, 6 points out there. They're just close, but just not good enough to grab a wild card spot. So I think they made great improvements. I wouldn't think just because they're in that position now that they have a shot at the playoffs. They have surprised me that way, especially with all the injuries. But this is still a young team at its core, and it's going to take time and patience.
I mean, you take into consideration that the key guys that have been lost, and you look at the standings, 3 points from that last wildcard spot is pretty impressive. And you look at the teams that are ahead of them that are not exactly lighting it up with Washington, Detroit, even New Jersey for that matter. And, the last 2 games, Canadiens, and even their last 10, they've been playing pretty well. And time to get excited? Hey, listen, we all believed that they were going to be borderline, finding a way into the playoffs. But if they get great goaltending and they get some guys continuing to elevate their play, nothing is impossible. And they get on a little bit of a run. It's not going to be easy. They got Tampa ahead of them. There's some stiff competition, but they're playing pretty well with the group that they have, and if they continue to play with a desperate mindset, who knows? Bigger surprise would happen in the league.
Yeah, well, they're on pace to finish with 85 points. Last year, it took 92 to get into the playoffs. Florida squeaked in, and then we know they went on that long playoff run. I think for them to get in, they're going to have to go on a 5, 6, 7 game win streak, and I don't see that happening. The longest win streak they've had so far this season is 2. They've had 2 4-game losing streaks. I think they're more likely to have another long losing streak. But it is, as Rick said, it's quite remarkable where they are, considering Kirby Dach lost in the second game of the season, Newhook gone, the time they missed with David Savard. The 3 goalie situation has actually worked out well. None of them like it, but the goaltending has been quite solid. They also need their forwards to start scoring. I mean, Sean Monahan leading the team with 9 goals. It's just not enough. And, they need Cole Caulfield to start scoring too. If Cole Caulfield starts putting the puck in the net like he can, that will help. But I'd be surprised to see this team get into the playoffs. But they're making it interesting. And kudos to Marty St. Louis, because these guys, they don't give up. They keep fighting. They keep playing. And they're hanging around. And as Knuckles said, I can see them hanging around just under that wild card spot going forward. And, the other part of the question Jesse asked, is that good or bad? I think winning is always good. I think, the tanking thing doesn't work. Players don't want to be in a losing environment. You don't want to create a losing environment. You look what's happening in Buffalo this year, where there's been a losing environment. They were supposed to be great this year. They can't win. So I think it's good. The more games this team wins, I think it's good for a young team to give them confidence.
Now, the Canadiens are on this long road trip that they have every year around Christmas time and New Year's. What do you think about this road trip? Do you think this is kind of like a make it or break it for them when it comes to their success? And how difficult is it to have a road trip like this around the holiday time? Rick, do you want to share your thoughts?
I always like to be on the road at this,
Wonder why.
At home, it didn't change either. But anyways, I think it's a good thing to be on the road. There's a lot of distractions happening with the home group, with family coming in and running around for, Christmas and all kinds of different distractions. So I always like to be on the road. It's time for the guys to really group together before the end of the year, so to speak, and, find ways to continue to finish off kind of what they've started in the way that they're playing well. And it's not a bad thing.
Chris?
Yeah, listen, I think it's it could be a make or break, to be honest with you. And I look at the Boston Bruins. I go back to the Bruins because every year, the beginning of the season, they play like 2 games at home. And they go on like a 7-game road trip because the circus would come to town. And boy, if they did well on that trip, they got a lot of confidence that the team gelled. They got together on the road. And things were good. It's right at the start of the season. If you have a kind of a half-ass road trip, you still have time to dig out of it. Well, here you're in the middle of the season, just about the middle of the season, and pretty tough schedule, and some good hockey teams they're playing. The Wild, Chicago, Carolina, Florida, Tampa Bay. So. Yeah, this could set them back a ways. They could be not nipping at the wild card. So, yeah, it's kind of make it or break it in a sense. They go on and they're above 500 on the road trip. It'll keep them in the mix there as far as maybe sniffing at that wild card. But it's going to be a tough one for them, no question.
Well, the one thing that's been good is the Canadiens have actually been a better team on the road than they have been at home. They're 7-4-2 away, and they're 7-9-2 at the Bell Center. But they have this trip every year over Christmas because Jeff Molson and Evenko, they want to fill the Bell Center with, I think it's Cirque du Soleil this year, or the Escapades, or whatever it is, the big money makers for the organization. But the schedule this year isn't as bad as it was last year anyway. Getting the win in Winnipeg, I think, was huge. Monday night, Marty St. Louis gave the boys the day off Tuesday, so I'm sure they enjoyed that. They're practiced Wednesday, another night off in Minnesota. They can have dinner or do whatever they want to do. And then back-to-back Thursday and Friday against Minnesota and Chicago. So Chicago, that's December 22nd on the Friday. Last year, they played their last game before Christmas on the 23rd in Dallas. I was on that road trip. And then they had some flight problems coming back. They didn't get home. I was talking with Jake Allen about this the other day. They didn't get home until about 5 or 6 a.m. on Christmas Eve. And as you guys can relate, if you're a player with a couple of young kids, it's not like you get home at 6 a.m. Christmas Eve and just go to bed and take a long snooze. You got a lot of things to do running around the house. So this year, it's a lot better schedule. They'll be home. They'll fly home right after the game in Chicago. So they'll get home, probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning on the 23rd. They'll have all Christmas Eve to spend with their family or friends. They're off Christmas Day. They're off the 26th. And then the 27th, I imagine they'll fly to Carolina and they play on the 28th. So it's going to be a break. And as I said, winning that that first game against Winnipeg is huge. If they can win in Minnesota and Chicago also and take 6 points out of the first 3 games, the rest of the trip is almost gravy. So it's not a good schedule, but it's not as bad as it's been in previous years. It's in a lot of ways, it'll be beneficial for them.
Now, one of the trends that we're starting to see with the Canadiens is them giving up leads. What comes to mind right away is that game against the Pittsburgh Penguins when they were up 3-1, and then Pittsburgh was able to come back into the game. How concerned are you about this trend with the Canadiens not being able to keep this lead? Stu, why don't you get us started with your thoughts?
Well, the thing, they're up 4-0, then it was 4-3. They were up 3-0, then it was 3-2. But they don't give up. Like, they don't panic. Marty St. Louis called a couple of timeouts there to sort of settle guys down in those games. They don't panic. It's a young team. They're going to make mistakes. And as Marty St. Louis said, the game when they were up 4-0, they're not used to playing with that kind of a lead. And the other team sort of gets away from its game plan and starts playing, as he said, it's sort of like a pond hockey, and it makes it more difficult. But it's a young team and they're learning, and playing with a 4-0 lead. I'm sure you guys, Rick and Chris, can both relate to that. It might not be the easiest lead to play with.
Yeah, like Stu mentioned, there, a young team learning, how to protect the lead, learning the things that they need to do as far as eliminating high risk play, keeping it simple, defense first. These type of things are going to allow them to maybe not lose, leads like they have been. And again, there's a lot of young guys that are still trying to understand all the details of the game each and every night, and it's a challenge for them. But again, this is a learning process, and I'm quite aware that the coaching staff is sending them the right messages on some of the details of the game that they need to fine-tune, that allows them to be able to stay in the game without blowing leads.
Yeah, young group certainly have to learn to play better defense. I know Marty St. Louis came in here with a different mindset than some of the older coaches in the league with, trapping. And not that they don't, they do at times, but some coaches are so rigid in it that they dumb it down for them. I think these guys, they think a little bit more offensively. They want to make plays. They want to hang on to the puck and all that. I think in their own end, at times they get lost, and they got to clean that up, because you look at the stats, differentials -19. They're 22nd in the league in goals against, 3.3 something goals a game against. That has to come down. Because this team, again, they're not going to score a lot of goals. Stu was just saying, Sean Monahan with 9. So, they got to bring that down. That's tighten up in your own end of the rink. But I think this young core, if they apply themselves and do pay attention to the details in their own end of the rink, and goaltending has something to do with that too, they can certainly, in the long run, benefit from it as a group.
Knuckles, when you were playing with Carbo and Gainey on the line, you must have liked those leads, right? Would that sort of fit into the style you guys played?
Our whole team didn't have a problem with that. I remember the year we played the last game in New York, right? We got the least goals against that year, Greeny, remember? Mm-hmm. And we came home, and the guys went out to Crescent Street afterwards. Remember that, Greeny? But anyway, we won the President's Trophy for least goals against, right? Whatever it was. And our team was so used to playing in those close hockey games, 2-1, 3-2. And man, I love being in that situation, being on the ice at the end of a game, defending a 1-goal lead and not out there when we were losing by a goal, but certainly love being out there and playing that in that role. And I think Greeny can attest to that too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you didn't mention about the great defense that you had behind you guys that, allowed you to do your thing. And
I'm sorry about that, but we had defensemen that had a hard time getting out of their own zone. So they stay in front of the net a little bit longer than the average D.
That's not really a bad thing when you're not sure. Stay in front, because chances are it's eventually going to come there.
And never trust the forward, right, Rick?
No, what can I say?
Hey, Knuckles, would you like to play for Marty St. Louis?
Listen. Yeah, the few times I've spoken with him, I really like him. He's enthusiastic. I think he has a different approach than some of the dinosaur coaches. And yeah, I would like to play for him. You know, I think he's pretty similar to in his teaching methods is Jacques Lemaire. I do. Jacques, yeah, he had the trap and he liked that and he was a stickler for that. But his one-on-one teaching guys things, I think he's very similar that way. Yeah, I would have loved to play for Marty. I wouldn't have a problem with it, you know. The only guy I had a problem with was Puddinhead.
Who was that again?
Puddinhead.
And that coach has a Stanley Cup ring, though, Knuckles.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for a great team effort and some leaders we had in that team, and Bob Gainey and Larry Robinson. We had a good group of guys.
Now, before we move on to rapid fire, Chris, come on, tell us more about what happened on Crescent.
Oh God, that was all in the newspapers, though.
Well, did he get the name Puddinghead before or after you hit him in the head with a puck?
Oh, it was before. It was way before. It was like I think it was like his maybe third practice as a coach.
I think it was after the 100th time during the meeting that he said, "Okay."
Okay.
Where's that shot off the head? Where's that rank in your career highlights, sir, Knuckles?
Well, it's right up there. I got to tell you, the craziest part about it is that all these years later, he still doesn't remember. He got hit in the head with a puck by me and got 8 stitches. I swear, I was at an event with him at the old Forum. We were sitting in the red seats there, and we were doing something. He was sitting in front of me, and I said, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing?" You know, he said, "Oh, good, good, Chris." And I'm there, "Coach, listen, you remember the time I hit you in the head right there?" And I pointed. I was sitting behind him. I pointed at his head, and he go, "What do you mean?" I said, "Remember the time I flipped the puck and took off and went up in the air and hit in your head? You ended up getting like 8 stitches." That never happened to me. Are you kidding me? I swear to God, he does not remember that. And I honestly, for the life of me, I don't understand how he couldn't remember that. I remember when I got stitches. And I'll never forget, I came in the room. Jacques Lemaire came to me and, he said, "Chris, what are you doing?" I said, "Listen, I just flipped the puck. It took off." I said, the guy was like, 50 feet away from me. I said, if I did that on purpose, I said, "You better put me on the power play. If I tried to hit him in the head, because I could pick corners if I can hit him in the head from there." So he said, "Well, you got to go in and apologize anyway." I said, "Sure." I came in the room and he was sitting in there, and remember, them ice bags with the screw on it? He had it on his head like that, and he was holding it. And he come in, I said, "Hey, Coach, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry." I didn't. I didn't mean to hit him, but I did. And unfortunate.
But let me say that Nux was really good at hitting guys in the head. If it wasn't a spitball in Thursdays, it would be in Washington. Brian Murray is the coach, And of course, him hating Nilan and everything that he was doing to the team. So I'm sitting beside him on the bench. He grabs a water bottle. Murray is up on top of the bench, screaming and yelling. And he goes, "Watch this." So Nux grabs the water bottle full and just heaves it over the glass. I see it just sailing, bang, right on the top of the head, knocked him down. He's laying behind the bench. I'm going, you just can't miss, eh? Just can't miss. Perfect.
Greeny, I got fined for that, right? But Jacques Lemaire, what happened? We were down in the game. There was like 30 seconds left, and we're going to lose the game. It was like 4-2. Murray called a timeout, and Jacques Lemaire was pissed off. And I love Jacques, right? And he was just so angry. And it was on Hockey Night in Canada, an afternoon game. And Lemaire was steaming behind the bench. And I heard him, and I looked, and he's up on the bench talking to his players. And I said to Eddie, Eddie, give me a water. He said, what do you want the water for? And I said, just give me the water. And I grabbed it. I stood up, and like Greeny said, I hit him right in the noggin, right on TV.
Yeah.
Boom, right in the head. Down he went.
Yeah.
Lemaire loved it.
I loved it. That was perfect.
I think the whole team loved it too. Washington loved it.
If you're only as accurate in your shot as you were with hitting guys in the head, you'd have like 20 goals.
Wow, I did. Where have you been?
So I'm not really sure how we're going to be able to follow that up, but we will move on to rapid fire. Arber Xhekaj, still with the Laval Rocket, waiting for a call-up. When do you think he will he get a call-up from the Montreal Canadiens? Chris, what's your thoughts on him being down Laval?
Well, I don't know when he'll be back. I just don't like hearing about, people making rumors about maybe a trade or something like that. I think there's other guys I would trade before him if you're thinking of a deal. You certainly need another top six forward who can score. And you got to put a package together, I guess, if you want to get that. But I wouldn't get rid of this guy. When you look at the conference and the division, that guy's worth his weight in gold. And listen, go down there, play a while. He had that injury. He got to bounce back from that. But there's nothing wrong with him down there getting the playing time and certainly seeing what they have. They have a lot of young defensemen. So, but again, it's great to have that abundance, but you got to know what you got in Arber Xhekaj, and I think they do. But, I'm not worried about him as far as being down there. It'll give him a good chance to get some confidence and get back up here at some point.
Yeah, I was going to say to let him find his game, let him play. I mean, he's got 3 points in 5 games. I haven't got a real read on, just where he's at in his overall play. But listen, he's got to get his A game ready to go so that when the time is right, they got to have him on the team. He's a guy that really brings a lot of respect, commands a lot of respect, keeps the opposition on guard. And let's face it, the kid, when he was playing well before his injury, was very, very effective. So this is a little bit of a, I won't call it a wake-up call, but something that's going to allow him to understand how he has to play and what he needs to do to get himself back in the NHL. But timetable, let him do his thing, let him, find his way and be effective there, and then bring him back.
Yeah, I think he might not be back until there's a trade and or an injury. I mean, Jordan Harris is still injured, and when he comes back, who do you take out? I mean, Jayden Struble's played so well. How do you take him out? And the 3 pairings they've had right now have been playing really well. But as you said, Rick, I don't think it's a terrible thing for Arber. I think he's going to go down there. He's going to play a ton. I'm sure he wasn't happy when he got sent down. He's on a 2-way contract, too, so he's making a lot less money down there than he was making with the Canadiens. But, Knuckles, as you said, there's so many young defensemen coming up. You got Logan Mailloux down there also. You got David Reinbacher, their first-round pick this year. David Savard, I'm pretty sure, will be traded before the trade deadline. He's his age and he'll be valuable. So maybe it's not until then. But if that is the case, if it's not until the trade deadline, Arber will have played a ton of hockey in Laval until then, and he'll be chomping at the bit to get back. I know, Knuckles, you have a relationship with him. I saw a video where Canadiens Twitter account, I think it was, of you meeting him in the parking lot before a game and giving him a fist pump. So I know you have a soft spot for him because he plays a similar style that you used to play.
Yeah, guys like that are so valuable. I don't care what anybody says. And that's why there's been a rash of hits from behind, okay, in this league recently. And I think a lot has to do with no one got to answer the bell anymore. Few teams have a guy, and guys just take advantage of that. They don't care, So you have a guy like that playing against Boston, playing in the playoffs. You need guys that can. And yeah, okay, he hurt his shoulder, had that injury, but you need guys who can be standing at the end when you're in Game 7 or Game 6, Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. And Greeny can attest to that. We had a big team. We had a good-sized hockey team, and we could take a licking and keep on ticking. Pardon the commercial for Timex, but we could, and you need that in the playoffs, and he's certainly a guy who can provide that.
What do you like about him as a kid, Knuckles? I know you've got to know him a bit too, like just as a guy.
He's just a good kid, brought up well. His parents are from, the Eastern Europeans, and, it's a good family. He learned how to work. I mean, he was working at Costco, right? The kid not afraid to work. And listen, I think this will be good for him there. You got to, back in our day, guys have spent 2-3 years in the minors, You're down there for 2-3 weeks, suck it up, work your ass off, and get back up. I love him. He's a great kid.
Now, another player who's been taking full advantage of being called up is Jayden Struble. Do you see the Canadiens sending him down at any point, or do you think he's earned his spot to stay with the team for the rest of the year? Stu?
It's going to be hard to send him down. I mean, Rick would be able to have a better eye on him than me, but he's so steady and like he does everything well. He skates better than I thought he skated. He moves the puck well. He's really physical. Does a lot of good things. Like when Jordan Harris is ready, do you take Struble out and put Harris in? That's going to be a really tough decision. But the biggest thing I like about him is the confidence he plays with and without the puck. He's not afraid to pinch in. He's got a couple of goals already. He makes some great passes. You see him; he's all over the ice, and he's really impressive. I think him and Kovacevic together are a really good pairing.
And great mobility. He's a really good skater, and if you watch him closely, you can see that he doesn't do a lot of high-risk type scenarios where he's on the wrong side of the puck. And when it comes down to one-on-one battles, whether it be in the corner, along the boards, he's solid. And, I'm very happy for him. Here's a guy that they give him the opportunity and a lot of pressure on him coming up to show what he can show. And he grabbed a hold of it and has consistently shown that he's capable of playing in the NHL level and very, very dependable. And those are the kind of guys that you like to have. And you mentioned Kovacevic. Again, those type of players are worth their weight in gold as far as being dependable and seem to be always on the right side of the play and don't make too many mistakes and keep it simple, play within your limitations. All those things that make up for, being a good, dependable defenseman at the NHL level, and let those other guys do their thing offensively, take a little more risk, if you will, of trying to get up into the play. But this kid Struble, he's impressed me.
Yeah, I like him. Obviously Northeastern graduate, Jordan Harris. Where Knuckles played, the two of them went to Northeastern, and I know something about this kid, and I know one thing. He's tough, and we say he's a hard-nosed guy and this and that. We haven't seen him fight in the ice. He didn't in college, and he didn't here yet. But I heard from very reliable sources that this kid is really tough off the ice, and that sounds like someone I know, and. We'll see. And again, this is not the age of fighting, but when you have guys that can provide that, that's great. But he moves the puck well. He's got good feet. I think at times when he's under pressure in his own end, he can get a little jittery with the puck. But that's just a young kid, adjusting to the level of play here and the speed and the quickness and all that. But he surely has, exceeded my expectations since he's been here. So that's a great surprise to see that. I hope there's a steady improvement and we see him continue to just flourish. It's awesome to see. They're in a good position with it. Like I said, they got a lot of good young defensemen. We forget about Lane Hudson. He's so small, the kid at BU, right? But this kid, he is a great little hockey player. And I say little, but they compare him to like Makar out in Colorado. Maybe not that level, but a lot of similarities. So, God, they got an abundance of guys. And when you have little defensemen that are like that, you better have some big guys around to protect them.
Yeah, well, Struble did have one fight in Laval. I know he told me his mom wasn't thrilled about watching it, and he did very well for himself. But
yeah,
he's a strong kid. I mean,
a tough kid.
At the combine before the draft, he was ranked number 1 in bench press. He ranked number 1 in grip strength with both hands, left hand and right hand. He was near.
Well, you know what I think about that combine nonsense, right, Rick?
Yeah.
You don't get paid to squeeze a thing,
But you see him in the locker room. He's built like an NFL defensive back. I mean, he's
big,
strong kid.
Greeny loved the sit-ups, right, Greeny?
The pull-ups. I could, on a good year, I could get 3 of them.
Now, Josh Anderson, we've spoken a lot about him on the show, and finally we were talking about him in a positive way because it seems like he's found his scoring touch again. If it continues to go this way, how many goals do you think that Josh Anderson can score this season for the Montreal Canadiens? Rick, what's your prediction?
Well, if I go back to one of the shows earlier, I think I had said he's in the 20-goal mark. Look, we all felt for Josh. We all like the kid. He's a guy that continued to work, and some of them are not exactly pretty, but it doesn't matter whether it goes off a skate, whether it goes off part of the body, whatever. He wants it. He's hungry. It's nice to see that some of them are going in. And hopefully this will continue because he's been trying and he's doing everything he can to make the difference each shift. And I hope that he continues to find a way to light it up. And the 20-goal mark would be I think a good year for him.
I'd sort of be surprised if he doesn't hit 20 goals. He had 21 last year in 69 games. He's got 51 games left now to get 16 more. And now that massive monkey's off his back, getting 3 goals in 2 games, I think he's just going to take off from here. I think Marty St. Louis showed confidence in him. He stuck with him. Marty had a great line when he said, if you don't give up on yourself, I won't give up on you. And Josh Anderson never gave up on himself. And now that that weight is off his shoulder, he's going to play much more loose and feel a lot better about himself. And I think the goals are really going to start coming now.
Yeah, I think he can get 20. He can get to that mark. There's no question. But he's got to keep going the way he's been going. And when he was going through that tough time, and I've seen it with goal scorers before, Rick has too, they have that added pressure because the expectation is we need these goals from you. And the thing I liked about it when he was struggling is he was still getting scoring opportunities. They just weren't going in. Like he was getting shots on net. He was creating stuff, and it just wasn't happening for him. How many times I see him go in, get a shot, and afterwards he kind of hang his head a little bit, which natural reaction. But if you get the poor me's too much, it's going to be poor me, pour me another drink. You're going to be out at the bar, bummed out. Oh, this sucks. And he didn't hang his head. He kept going. Credit to him. And bouncing back, I saw the ovation that fan base gave him. And that was an emotional moment. I love seeing that. I love him knowing that the fans never gave up on him. And you could see it. He felt that. So he should be able to get 20. I love this player. Always have. When he was in Columbus and since he's been here, he just really those are, again, the type of guys you need to go far in the playoffs.
I remember there was one game, Knuckles, he had a great chance in the slot and his stick snapped in half And the same game, he had an almost open net and the puck hopped over his stick.
Yeah.
It was painful to watch, but
you almost had to laugh at it.
Exactly. Exactly. But
you know.
asking him after the last game at the Bell Center, I said, what's the biggest lesson you learned through this process that can help you moving forward? And he said that after 14, 15 games of the goal, he was really looking, over-analyzing everything, basically, looking back at videos and just taking too much on himself. But he said the thing he's learned now moving forward is cliche, but just go day by day and game by game and just keep doing the things that you should be doing, and eventually the puck will start going in.
Yeah, I think that was so nice, the game after with the Islanders, that the fan base knew exactly what he was going through and just how important of a game this was for him to give him that kind of ovation after the game and show him that, the fan base really appreciates what he does for this team. Now,
and he's the guy who wants to play here too. He wants to play in Montreal. He loves it. I mean, his dad grew up in the West Island. His mom's related to Peter Mahovlich. He wants to be here, and I think fans realize that guys want to be here and are working hard. They're behind them.
Yeah, as long as he's trying hard. That was the thing. Like Chris mentioned, that it wasn't like he wasn't working. It just he didn't have luck on his side, and that's basically what it was. And everyone really saw that. But another player we have to talk about is Mitchell Stevens. He has no points in the 8 games he's played since being called up from Laval. Do you think it's now time for them to maybe send him down and swap him with another forward, Chris?
Listen, they have him up for a reason. He can play the center ice position. And, you got Monahan, you got Evans. And you're on this long road trip. I think a guy that's been around a little bit and a bit seasoned. Again, he's not a bona fide NHL player, but he has some experience, and I think that could help this team on the road. Instead of bringing up a green guy on the road trip, it's good to have a guy that's been around a little bit. So we'll see how it works out. But I don't have a problem with what he's doing right now.
I'm just curious to see what the feeling is on Joshua Roy, who's second in the scoring in Laval. Whether or not they want to just let him do his thing there in Laval, or whether they're ever going to maybe give him a chance to get a taste at the NHL level. And it'd be nice to see some guys, talented guys, some skilled guys that are getting some good results, be given a chance, to play at the NHL level and try and get a reading on them. So, I mean, until he's filling a little bit of a void right now, but I would surely like to see maybe a change and allow some of the guys that are having some success at the American League to get a taste of the NHL.
Yeah, Joshua Ross started off really good in Laval, and he dipped off after that a little bit. He's had problems scoring, but I think with Stevens, he sort of, they lose Tanner Pearson. He's another veteran guy that Marty St. Louis trusts. He's not going to get many minutes. He's not going to complain about not getting a lot of minutes. I think they think Joshua was better off playing big minutes down in Laval and continuing to develop down there rather than playing limited minutes up here. But I would like to see Joshua at some point get a chance for a few games anyway to show what he can do at the NHL level. I think it might give him a little bit of a boost also to get a little taste of playing in the NHL. It was interesting because Kent Hughes was on a podcast recently. He was talking about Jayden Struble, and he said when Struble was called up before that road trip to California, Hughes told him, "You're not going to play any games. You're just going down there for the experience. We want you to see how the players prepare and be around the team a bit and get used to it." And then Jordan Harris got hurt, and Struble's played every game since then. So I could see a similar situation might be good for Joshua Roy if they call him up, even if they don't play him a lot, just to give him a taste of what it's like, flying in the charter flights and everything that goes around with playing in the NHL. So we might see that at some point. But I think right now it's just a case of Stevens, like Pearson, is a veteran that Marty trusts when he puts him on the ice in the limited minutes, that he's going to play well defensively and not make costly mistakes that way defensively.
Well, that's it for us today. And something to remember, we will be off for the next 2 weeks, so we will see you in the new year. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all the best in the new year. Chris, thank you so much for filling in for Andrew today. It was such a treat having you back on the show, sharing the stories. Absolutely loved it, and I'm sure our viewers loved it too.
Jess, thanks again. It's good to be back, and I enjoyed my morning with you guys, and it's don't be afraid to check out the Raw Knuckles podcast, Jess.
Yes, we'll make sure to do that. And also, while you're checking out the Raw Knuckles podcast, sign up for the Hockey Inside Out newsletter. Just go to montrealgazette.com/newsletters. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel. And of course, visit the montrealgazette.com for all your daily Habs coverage.